Have you ever felt like, no matter what you say, she always controls the conversation and you end up losing respect? It's not your imagination. It's a silent power play, a mind game in which you're being disarmed without you even realizing it. There's a fundamental flaw, a subject mentality that makes you predictable, easy to manipulate, and, worse, easy to forget. In this video, I'm going to reveal the ultimate male strategy, inspired by Machiavelli's cold, calculating logic, to help you stop being a pawn and become the player who controls the board. If you don't want to be dominated anymore, stay until the end. Topic 1. Eliminating the subject mentality. The most devastating mistake a man can make, the one that annihilates any possibility of genuine attraction, is to enter the interaction with a subject mentality. He approaches her not as an equal, but as a commoner before a queen, pleading with every word and gesture for a crumb of approval. This is the first battleground in the mind game, and most lose it before they even open their mouths. Putting a woman on a pedestal is the act of a man who doesn't have a throne of his own. In doing so, he hands her all power on a silver platter, communicating that her validation is more important than his own self-respect. A high-value man doesn't seek approval, he emanates it. His frame of reality is the dominant one. She is a guest in his world, not the architect of hers. Understanding this principle is the cornerstone of any male strategy that aspires to success. A truth as cold and sharp as Machiavelli's teachings on how a prince must be perceived, lest he be deposed. From the moment he goes out of his way to find the perfect topic, laughs excessively at her unfunny jokes, or adjusts his opinion to match hers, he becomes a conversational serf. He's a buffoon who dances and pirouettes in the hopes of entertaining the court, unaware that respect is never accorded to the entertainer, but to the one who holds the crown. This behavior is a direct reflection of a lethal lack of emotional control. He projects need, a void that he expects her to fill. But a woman, instinctively, is not attracted to emptiness, but to fulfillment. She doesn't want to be the source of a man's trust. She wants to crash into the trust he already possesses. Subtle manipulation on her part isn't even necessary when a man volunteers as a vassal. He puts the chains on himself, hoping that she, out of mercy, will offer him the key. Not understanding that attraction is not born of piety, but of admiration for power. The true male strategy is to reverse this dynamic completely. The goal is not for him to win her approval, but for her, unconsciously, to begin seeking his. This is achieved not with arrogance, but with a calibrated detachment, a calm that suggests his world is complete and fascinating in and of itself. He is the host of the party, not a guest desperate not to be ejected. When he speaks, he shares his reality without asking permission. When he listens, he does so from a position of genuine curiosity, not one of seeking clues to please. This is mind games at their finest, making your value so evident and self-sufficient that she feels compelled to prove hers to be worthy of remaining in your orbit. It's a dance of subtle power, where the one willing to back out always has the upper hand, an echo of the negotiation tactics Machiavelli himself would use. A high-value man understands that female attraction is an evolutionary mechanism that responds to certain signals of survival and status. And the most repulsive signal is that of a man who subjugates himself. It's unnatural. A woman can enjoy the attention of a servant, can use him for her convenience, but she will never feel the electric, visceral tension she reserves for a leader. The man who idolizes her positions himself as a resource, a utility. The man who values himself positions himself as a prize. This distinction is crucial. The former generates comfort and, eventually, boredom and disdain. The latter generates intrigue, challenge, and a deep respect that borders on obsession. Controlling the conversational narrative begins with controlling one's own value framework, an internal fortress that no external validation can build or destroy, demonstrating ironclad emotional control. Therefore, the first guideline in this lethal art is to demolish the pedestal and build a throne. It's an internal paradigm shift that projects outward with a magnetic force. You must stop seeing her as an unattainable being of light and begin to see her as just another player on the chessboard of life. His goal isn't to capture the queen immediately, but to strengthen his own position on the board until approaching her king is the most logical and desirable move for her. But adopting this kingly mentality is only the first step. Once he sits on his throne, he must learn to read the intentions of those who approach his court, because every woman is equipped with a sophisticated detection system to differentiate a true sovereign from an impostor sitting in a borrowed chair. And understanding that radar is the key to never being unmasked. Topic 2. Understanding the female radar. The man who has built his throne and eliminated his subject mentality faces a new challenge. Female radar. This must be understood not as a fantasy, but as an incredibly sophisticated evolutionary lie detector. It's not that she consciously analyzes his every word. It's a much deeper and more primitive process occurring in her subconscious. This radar doesn't detect lies. It detects inconsistencies. It's a mechanism designed over millennia, for one thing, to differentiate men who possess real power from those who only pretend to. A man can recite the boldest phrases, But if his internal physiology screams insecurity, the radar will go off. This is the real mind game. It's not about what you say, but about the conviction behind your words. The slightest crack in the armor of his emotional control will be detected, and with it, any semblance of respect he might have earned will evaporate. Attraction, contrary to popular belief, is not a logical decision she makes. It's an involuntary reflex, a chemical reaction that is triggered when certain switches deep within her brain are activated. A high-value man doesn't try to convince her with arguments to make her feel attracted. His masculine strategy focuses on flipping those switches naturally and deliberately. These switches respond to displays of competence, leadership, calmness, under pressure, and, above all, total congruence between his inner self and his external actions. When a man moves through the world with a clear purpose, without needing external validation, he is unknowingly activating these levers. Trying to generate attraction without understanding this principle is like trying to open a safe by dialing numbers at random. It's futile, frustrating, and a waste of time and energy that betrays an amateur in the art of power. This evolutionary radar is adept at detecting the micro-signals of weakness, the slight hesitation in her voice before a bold statement, the gaze that veers at the key moment, the body that subtly twitches when she challenges him. These are all signals that scream imposter. A man may have memorized all the tactics of conversational manipulation, but if his nervous system betrays him, the game is lost. The female radar doesn't listen to her words. It senses her mood. It senses whether her calm is genuine or a mask about to crack. Therefore, emotional control is not an option. It's a fundamental prerequisite. The man who flinches internally at a simple congruence test from her has already communicated that he is not the leader her biology is programmed to seek. He has failed at the most critical mental game, self-control. So how do you outwit this infallible detector? The answer, as Machiavelli himself would say, is not by being a better liar, but by becoming the truth. Congruence is the ultimate weapon. The high-value man doesn't need to fake confidence because he has cultivated a real foundation of competence and self-esteem. He doesn't need to feign detachment because his life is genuinely interesting and fulfilling. His body language, his tone of voice, and his words are in perfect sync because they emanate from a solid, coherent core. The female radar cannot be fooled, but you can give her exactly what she seeks: authenticity and genuine strength. It is this alignment that grants her instant and profound respect, because it communicates, on a primal level, that he is a pillar of stability in a chaotic world, a true wielder of power. Understanding that this radar exists and operates at a subconscious level is a monumental strategic advantage. The average man tries to appeal to a woman's logic, unaware that the gateway to attraction is guarded by this silent guardian who only responds to the language of nonverbal strength. Knowing this allows him to stop focusing on the perfect words and start working on the only thing that matters: his internal state. However, once the internal state is correct, it must be communicated effectively, and words are the clumsiest and least reliable communication channel for this task. True power is projected silently. This is where the most lethal and subtle weapons in the male arsenal come into play, those that communicate status, dominance, and confidence without uttering a single syllable. Topic 3. Using silent weapons, body language. Now that a man understands he is constantly being scanned by a biological radar, he must learn to master the weapons that speak the language that radar understands. These are not words, but the silent weapons of body language. Human communication is overwhelmingly nonverbal. While the mouth can be trained to lie, the body is an honest traitor that reveals the true internal state. It is on this silent battlefield that the mental game is won or lost before the first sentence is even uttered. A man can speak of his confidence, but if his posture is that of a servant apologizing for existing, the message she receives is one of weakness. Mastering one's own body is the first step toward mastering the interaction. Any masculine strategy that ignores this principle is mere fantasy, for it is in the arena of the unspoken that true power is demonstrated and perceived without filters. The first and most potent nonverbal cue is comfort. A high-value man projects an unflappable calm, a sense that he's at home anywhere, especially under social pressure. This translates into expansive, relaxed body language. He takes up her space without asking permission, leans back quietly, keeps his shoulders back and chest open. His movements are deliberate and economical, free from the rush and nervous agitation of a man who fears not being accepted. This physical comfort is a direct reflection of his emotional control. It tells her radar, "I've been in situations like this before. I'm competent, I'm in control." This kind of presence engenders instant subconscious respect, establishing a framework of authority before the content of the conversation even begins to matter. Just as important as what the body does is what it doesn't do. Need, that universal repellent of attraction, screams through body language. It's seen in the man who leans too far toward her, invading her space in a nonverbal plea for approval. It's seen in the gaze that searches hers too often, seeking reassurance. It's seen in the tense, closed gestures that attempt to protect a fragile ego. The most effective male strategy uses the body to communicate detachment. Maintain a comfortable distance, be willing to break eye contact to observe the surroundings, and maintain a posture that is open but not pleading. This is a form of perception manipulation that Machiavelli would approve of. By showing that you don't need her, you become immensely more desirable. Power doesn't chase, it attracts. Within this fortress of calm and control, the man can deploy more advanced tactics. The playful challenge is one of them, a simple raised eyebrow, a contained smile as she speaks, or the act of slowly averting his gaze, mid-sentence, and then reconnecting are gestures that create magnetic tension. They break the pattern of constant validation and compel her to try a little harder. The strategic retreat is another powerful weapon. Being the first to turn your body slightly to include another person in the conversation, or even taking a physical step back while speaking, communicates that his attention is a valuable resource that is not given away. It's a power move that redefines the dynamic, making it clear who is leading the dance in this subtle mental game, demonstrating that they control the flow of the interaction. By mastering these silent weapons, a man builds a non-verbal framework of status and confidence. His body communicates that he is the prize, the center of her own reality. He has established a presence that is impossible to ignore and difficult to resist. But this foundation, however solid, is only the stage. The play must still be performed. Now that his physical presence projects the right message, he must learn to manage his most precious resource in conversation, her attention. How does he distribute it to keep her in a constant state of intrigue and desire for more? There is a formula, a calculated distribution of focus that transforms simple small talk into an addictive experience for her, ensuring that he always maintains the strategic advantage. Okay, let's move on to the next phase. Topic 4. Distribution of conversational attention. The man who has mastered his physical presence must now learn to manage his most valuable asset in the dialectical battle, his attention. Attention is not simply an act of courtesy. It is the currency of power in any mental game. The average man makes the fatal mistake of giving away 100% of his attention, becoming a captive audience or worse, a desperate interrogator. This is a losing masculine strategy that positions him as the primary investor in a transaction where she risks nothing. True mastery lies in the calculated distribution of this resource. It is a subtle form of focus manipulation, designed not to deceive but to direct the dynamic, maintaining control and forcing her to invest to gain his full focus. He who controls the flow of attention controls the interaction. The formula for maintaining addictive engagement breaks down into a strategic ratio. The first 50% of attention is intensely devoted to her. This is crucial and where amateurs, in attempting to be detached, fail miserably. It's not about ignoring her when the focus is on her. It is absolute and penetrating. He listens not just to respond, but to understand her motivations, her passions, and her mental maps. He asks questions that make her think, not questions from a questionnaire. During these moments, she feels seen and valued, which builds a connection and deep respect. However, because this intense attention is intermittent and not constant, it is perceived as a scarce and valuable resource. He demonstrates complete emotional control by being able to connect deeply without losing himself in the need for her approval, and then being able to withdraw that focus at will. The next 30% of conversational effort is devoted to free play and fun. This is the unpredictability phase, which breaks the tension of deep connection and replaces it with peaks of emotion. This is where the high-value man introduces humor, playful banter, fascinating stories that don't necessarily have to do with her, or bold statements that take her off her usual script. This portion of the conversation is vital because it shows her that he's not a therapist or an interviewer, but a fun, multifaceted man whose company is stimulating. It prevents the interaction from devolving into a predictable and boring question and answer session. This is the mental game component that makes her laugh, challenges her, and keeps her in a pleasant state of alert, not knowing what to expect next. The final and perhaps most potent 20% is calculated mystery. This is the ingredient that fuels curiosity into obsession. It is implemented by being deliberately vague about certain aspects of his life, by giving enigmatic answers to overly personal questions, or by elegantly changing the subject just when it seems he's about to reveal a key piece of his puzzle. As Machiavelli would advise, a prince should never be completely transparent, as predictability is the prelude to defeat. This 20% creates open loops in her mind. She'll go home wondering, what does he really do? What did he mean by that? Her mind will try to fill in these blanks. He intentionally leaves, keeping her thinking about him long after the interaction is ended. This is the true art of wielding psychological power. By applying this 5-0-3-0-2-0 formula, the man becomes a conductor of the emotional orchestra. He alternates between deep connection, unpredictable fun, and intriguing mystery, creating a conversational symphony that most men are incapable of composing. He keeps her engaged, entertained, and perpetually eager to decipher him. However, in this game of chess, the opponent also moves his pieces. Inevitably, she will attempt to test the solidity of his frame with her own moves, challenges, and leading questions to see if his power is real or a mere mirage. How he responds to these tests will determine whether he maintains his strategic advantage or whether his kingdom crumbles at the first sign of pressure. Topic 5. Maintaining strategic advantage just when the man thinks he's consolidated his position. The game enters its most critical phase. Inevitably, the woman will launch tests. These shouldn't be viewed as malicious attacks, but rather as sonar probes her subconscious radar sends out to verify the authenticity of the power he projects. They are leading questions, playful challenges, or provocative comments designed to do one thing: see if she cracks under pressure. A low-value man sees a test as a personal affront and reacts. A high-value man, a mind game strategist, sees it for what it is: a golden opportunity to demonstrate his strength, solidify his frame, and take attraction to the next level. Each test pass not only maintains his status but elevates it, proving that his inner kingdom is solid and well defended. The cardinal sin in facing a trial is defensiveness. The moment a man justifies himself, over-explains, or worse, gets angry, he has catastrophically lost the game. Defensiveness is a non-verbal confession of insecurity. It is a desperate cry that says, "You just hit a soft spot." This is the most resounding failure of emotional control and instantly annihilates any respect he may have built. The most fundamental male strategy is impassiveness in the face of chaos. He must be the rock against which the waves of trials crash and dissipate. Responding to a trial with emotion is ceding control of your mood to her, and a man who cannot control himself certainly cannot lead an interaction or inspire trust. To pass these tests and maintain the advantage, the man must employ an arsenal of responses that demonstrate superior frame control. One tactic is accept and overdo it, taking her challenge and taking it to a ridiculous extreme, humorously demonstrating that he is unaffected. If she says, "You should practice those phrases in the mirror," he might respond with a calm smile, "In the mirror and with a team of advisors." It's a complex operation. Another technique is deliberate misinterpretation, where he chooses to interpret the test as a compliment. This is an elegant form of frame manipulation that completely disarms her. Ignoring the test altogether is also an immense power move. Simply continuing the conversation as if nothing happened demonstrates that her attempt to destabilize him was so insignificant that it didn't even merit his attention. The goal of handling tests this way isn't just to win the moment. It's to fuel the engine of obsession, curiosity. Every time he overcomes a challenge without revealing his true emotional card, without getting defensive, he adds another layer to his mystery. He becomes a puzzle she needs to solve. As Machiavelli understood about leadership, an aura of unpredictability and depth inspires both fear and fascination. The man who never reacts as expected, who maintains a disconcerting calm, occupies a privileged space in a woman's mind. She will keep thinking about the interaction, replaying his moves, trying to understand him. This insatiable curiosity is what transforms simple attraction into a powerful fixation, cementing her victory in the mental game. Mastering these responses isn't a gimmick, it's the essence of masculine power. It's the difference between the man who is constantly tested and discarded and the high-value man who is respected and desired. What you've learned in this video is the foundation of true masculine strategy, but it's just the beginning. If this knowledge has opened your eyes and you're determined to fully master this mental game and stop being a pawn on someone else's board, do what men of action do right now. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss any strategies, and give this video a big like. Share it with that man you know needs to wake up. This is the opportunity to take control. Don't let it pass you by.